My name is Björk, and your television is just about to explode!
Björk is here. Her voice is unquestionably one of the most unique and recognizable in the world. She has segued successfully from punk rock bands to a solo career, which has included such albums as Debut, Post, and Homogenic. Last year, she won the Best Actress Award at the 2000 Cannes Film Festival for her performance in Dancer in the Dark.
The very mention of Dancer in the Dark is likely to trigger a whirlwind of emotions in all who have seen it. The film has been described as both one of the best films of the 21st century and one of the worst by critics and audiences alike. However, whilst the quality of the film remains controversial to some, the brilliance of Björk's lead performance is hard to deny.
A performance that left a lasting impression on me as an actor, I would say, is Björk in Lars von Trier's Dancer in the Dark. I think that's a perfect performance, and I think it's faultless.
Before Dancer in the Dark, Björk made her on-screen debut in the low-budget Icelandic film The Juniper Tree. Filmed in 1986, the film features Björk in the early stages of her career, shortly before the Sugar Cubes and long before her first solo album, Debut. Björk's subtle performance here is definitely worthy of praise, and it's certainly interesting to see just how different her acting is in The Juniper Tree, compared to the much more melodramatic Dancer in the Dark.
A man who was called Lars von Trier.
Yes.
And he asked me if I was into being a blind, bad tap dancer.
A blind tap dancer?
And I just couldn't resist it, you know?
Yeah.
Since I was a child, I wanted to do a musical that was not like the Hollywood ones, where the magic, you know, if you didn't have to be American with a lot of money and look great to have magic. It was something that everybody can do in their own kitchen, you know?
The biggest problem about making a musical is, of course, what music should you put in it? And I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. So that is where Björk came in very handy, I must say. And I like the music that she has done very much.
When it comes to music, Björk is truly one of the greatest to ever do it, and the filming for Dancer in the Dark arguably took place during the height of her musical powers. Björk had just released Homogenic, and during the production of Dancer in the Dark she began work on Vespertine, which is widely considered to be her best album. In terms of her creative approach towards music, Björk has described it as consisting of two main parts.
It's very academic, and you sit down and you collect, this is the kind of flavor, and you spend like hours and hours for months, even years, and until you have a library of the sound family you want for the beats. So that is kind of almost like being a librarian, you know?
Mm-hmm. Classifying.
Yeah, and then part of me is like kind of the singer, maybe the opposite of that, you know?
As a child, Björk was formally trained at music school and was a child star in her native Iceland, but when it comes to acting, she had only previously starred in The Juniper Tree.
I mean, we both knew, we were completely honest about that I don't know how to act, I've never done that. I'm completely ignorant, you know. What do I do? Do I learn my lines, you know? What door should I open? You know, I didn't know anything, you know.
With such limited acting experience, Björk determined that the only way she could play Selma is to become her completely.
My cells just started changing one by one, and I just became Selma, you know. So I think I was her 24 hours, and my friends would come and they wouldn't recognize me, being the most sort of idiosyncratic person they've ever met. And suddenly I was moving different and doing little different things in my house, like little habits and stuff. But that was something that took a long time. And by the time I was acting, I wasn't thinking about it at all. I was just Selma, and I was just waking up and I was just killing a man and feeling like I killed a man, you know? Which to a certain degree people could think of being, it's quite naive, but that was the only way I could do it, you know.
Perhaps this is why Björk's performance in Dancer in the Dark feels so raw. It's a performance that does not draw from any formal training or from Björk's academic side, and instead relies purely on her intuition and a part of herself that she doesn't seek to understand, similar to her voice.
I felt very secure with the fact that the sort of integrity of our work, because I could feel it, and we both could feel it, and it's a very strong feeling. It's sort of, something's just a lot bigger than you, and you can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do is just go with the flow, you know? You can't fight it.
Any performance driven by intuition is heavily reliant on the actor's memory and experiences, and this is a huge part of the genius of casting Björk as Selma, because the two share many similarities. In Dancer in the Dark, Selma moved to the US to seek eye surgery for her son to prevent him from going blind. She blames herself for giving birth to him because she knew that her condition was hereditary.
Well, it is my fault, I guess.
Whilst this is an irresponsible decision, it is clear that Selma is very childlike and naive, and you end up sympathising with her.
I just wanted to hold the little baby.
She works incredibly hard to save up for her son's surgery, working at the factory in the day, carding pins at home, and even desperately taking on the night shift as her eyesight deteriorates. For all of her hardships, she perseveres, remaining strong and upbeat for her son.
This is the only thing that's important to me in my whole life.
At the absolute core of Selma's character is love, and this is where we really start to see the deep connections with Björk, the most obvious of which is their shared love of music.
I'm doing what I'm doing because I love to do it, and I've been doing it since I was 11, 12, and I will continue doing it for another 50 years, you know. And if people like it, that's a great bonus, but it won't really change the way I do things.
Björk also had a son of a similar age to Selma whilst filming Dancer in the Dark, and when their sons are threatened, both of their maternal instincts kick in and something else takes over.
I think it's when people attack my loved ones. I get very defensive, and I get out this monster that I didn't even know that was there.
An understanding of Björk herself adds another dimension to her performance as Selma, and what an incredible performance it is. The artistic collaboration between Lars von Trier and Björk is truly one for the ages, and what they achieved together is nothing short of miraculous.
She has an incredible performance. Incredible. And it's not acted, I must say that. It's not acted, it's felt. And I think that Björk always talks about not a divine power, but a mystical power, right? And if there was any kind of mystical power behind this, then it was the fact that the two of us came together on this project. That was kind of mystical in the sense that I think there's so many things that make sense when you see Björk saying the lines that I had written without knowing her, which is, I think, beautiful.
I mean, I've connected with quite a lot of people creatively, but I mean, I think Lars has said this to me, this is the strongest kind of connection he's ever made with an actor or actress, because it was kind of almost scary because it was kind of bigger than us, you know, and it wasn't about Lars and Björk anymore, it was just Selma, you know.
Sadly, however, not all was well behind the scenes.
It has been hard work for both of us, extremely painful. It's a painful film in many ways, but it pays off. I think she's done a marvelous film.
Describe the process of acting as one of extreme cruelty.
Well, I don't think it has to be.
In October 2017, Björk made several allegations against Lars von Trier, which he subsequently denied. Lars did, however, admit that Björk and himself didn't get along well, and the producer of Dancer in the Dark, Zentropa, was also investigated in 2017 by Danish authorities over its ingrained culture of abuse. Based off of Björk's allegations, interviews at the time Dancer in the Dark was released, and the investigation into Zentropa, I think it's safe to say issues were present behind the scenes, which is a fucking sadness. I accept that many artists are dysfunctional people, and these dysfunctions allow them to create the art that they do. However, creative brilliance does not excuse tyrannical and exploitative behaviour. Suffering is not necessary in the artistic process, and as such, no one should be subjected to an abusive and painful working environment for any reason.
I think creativity doesn't have to be cruel to be good, you know? I think it's a sign of impotency if you think you have to add cruelty to your work for it to be considered art. I think if you are confident enough in what you do, you would nurture it, you know, with positive energy. I'm that naive.
And sadly, this issue goes far beyond just Dancer in the Dark. Recently, the Cannes Film Festival promised seriousness in confronting industry abuse, after a French parliamentary inquiry concluded that mistreatment of performers was endemic in the entertainment industry. Dancer in the Dark celebrates its 25th anniversary this year, and how wonderful it would have been to see Lars von Trier, Björk, Catherine Deneuve and everyone involved in this incredible work of art come together and celebrate what they achieved. How wonderful it would have been to see Björk and Lars von Trier collaborate again, but instead what we're left with is all this sadness and all this pain. Abuse shouldn't exist in this industry, or any industry for that matter. Not then and certainly not now, and to see this happen in an art form I love so much is incredibly painful. Things need to change, and my heart goes out to Björk for everything she suffered.
Sort of the whole thing is for the love of Selma, and which of course is, funny because she doesn't exist. But that's kind of why, and that's even why I finally accepted the role that Lars kept offering me, was maybe, I'm a very stubborn person. I would have said no for another 10 years, easy, But I kind of fell in love with her, I guess, a little bit, and felt she needed defending,